things right. Obviously, Jay Sean Cornell, we had a pretty serious injury on the field today. That was, that was not good. So we're, getting with the doctors now to try to figure out exactly what that looks like. But that was a pretty severe injury from that standpoint. So he was in a lot of pain. He was down for a while. So, unfortunate that happened in that particular, that particular part of practice. But I think other than that, the guys, out there working really hard, trying to get better. It was kind of our second day here of early down stuff as we work and build our fundamentals of that part of the field. And then we'll start to get into some situational stuff here after the player day off. So continuing trying to just to get as close as possible to football and going out and kind of simulating normal football scenarios and situations. It was good. We had a couple live snaps down on the goal line, so that was good. To kind of get that in and get a little bit of tackling going and some live work. So just try to build it as we go further.
Let's go, Mike O'Hara. First question.
Okay. Hey, thanks for squeezing me in. Hey, Coach, you've talked about maximizing the 90 minutes and all that and efficiency. And I wonder, from Matthew Stafford's standpoint, how he's just so dialed in on that offense and what he did in the offseason, working with other guys and all that. I wonder how what's the value of him being able to really set a standard of tempo and efficiency, not just the passing game, not just the offense, but how it leaks over even to the defense. And like, this is the standard of our team. I just wonder what the value of that is to you.
Yeah, no, it's really huge for me in that standpoint, especially because we are in training camp mode where we go offense versus defense. And one of the things we talk a lot about with the offense and really Stafford's done an unbelievable job of just getting in and out of the huddle and having those substitutions be really sharp and crisp. And that puts a lot of pressure on the defense when that happens. And he certainly is very comfortable with the offensive system and being able to get guys where they need to go very quickly. So that sort of leadership and the command that he has of the offense and the way that he can run it, at a high tempo and get it corrected or get it adjusted or make changes on the field based on what he sees against the defense, that does put a lot of pressure on the defense. So that's really good for us to get those kind of, almost game-like reps as much as we can in practice.
All right, thank you.
Justin?
Hey, Matt, we talked a little bit about Jonah Jackson and Jeff Okudah yesterday. Today, Cephas and Swift are out there, and they're kind of showing some flashes as well. These rookies really seem to be hitting the ground running despite the, shortened offseason. What kind of credit goes to your coaches or them, or how do you explain that they've been able to get acclimated and get going so quickly?
Yeah. You know what? I think, I totally agree. I think that the guys have been able to really kind of showcase what they do in a skill set sort of manner and kind of been put in situations where they can kind of just maybe just isolate their specific position and go out and show us what they can do. So first of all, give credit to the players. Those are the guys that are out there working. And I think they've all done a really good job through the course of an unusual spring to try to come into camp as ready to go as possible. And then through the course of the day and working with their teammates and kind of getting in there and listening. And certainly the coaches, on top of that, and getting them ready to go. A lot of camp right now is some fundamental stuff. So we do kind of have those guys in isolated, maybe one-on-one situations, or it's a very small scale football stuff, but just so that we can see, what their skill set level is, if it's competitive and what needs to improve. Certainly as things pick up here and we get into more game situational things, down and distance, red area, third down, 2-minute, those sort of the mental bricks that get added on. That's where you see those guys slow down a little bit. So hopefully we can build those in the right way and they can kind of keep showcasing that performance on the field that we've seen, that production, along with trying to learn the intricacies of what's happening in the game.
And with the offensive guys specifically, what role does Matthew play in kind of bringing them along from all the way back to when he was doing the workouts during the off season through camp?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you give it to the individual player first, but certainly the quarterback is key to all of that, and I think Matthew Stafford is an unbelievable job with those guys of really just spending extra time with them and talking to them about some of those intricacies, the details of things that you've seen out in the field. Probably a lot of it in the passing game, certainly with the coverages and the routes and the leverage and things like that he can kind of talk to them and work, work through some of those scenarios for them. But certainly in the running game too, even with Swift out there and some of the reads and the checks that they've made at the line of scrimmage. So, he's part of all of it. And those guys are doing a really good job of just kind of listening and following his direction.
Go Tim next.
two-part question, Coach, but same subject. Just what you've seen from Big V the first couple days, and then could you just talk about the value of the reps he's getting as a guy who's kind of come in, expected to play a big role, getting some starting reps versus maybe what he had in Philadelphia, playing behind two good guys. Was that swing tackle? Was maybe right half practice, left half practice? Just the change in the situation that he's coming into now, and the value of that. So that two-parter.
Yeah. I mean, Big V's, I would say just things that impress you right away, obviously, is, he's big. So he's very large. He's got incredibly, really good footwork and strong hands. When he punches those guys and he gets his hands in their chest and he can get a hold of them, he stoned a couple guys out of practice that I think were surprised at just how strong he is. But his footwork is really good too. He can move laterally and kind of stay with some of those quicker guys. So that kind of combination has been, it's been impressive so far. I think from a standpoint of just coming in and being ready to go, whatever position it is, tackle or guard or whatever we ask him to do, he's going to do. And, he tries to do it at a really high level. But I would say, the reps that he's been in there, and specifically at tackle, he really hasn't missed a beat. He's kind of just gotten all the information and he's done really well. This guy's played a lot of football in the NFL, and he started a few games, in one particular that I don't really care for, but, he's done it at a high level. So I think the expectation is there that he can do that at a high level. And certainly, we're in practice and we're trying to grind through camp. So it's still competition from that aspect of it. But the skill set that he's been able to display, has been good.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
Matt, I know you don't like to talk about the roster and the depth chart and things of that nature, but when you have a condensed style of training camp, what kind of importance does it put on getting guys in there and having certain guys together, continuity at certain positions, and working to keep, just first team starters all going together and learning together, things like that?
Yeah. I think it's really similar to other training camp years. I don't really know who the starters are. There is a lot that needs to be proved out on the field. Every year we start over, and guys go out and it's not really what they did last year. It's about what they can do for us this year. So I think they understand that, and we like to keep the competition high. Certainly at some point you like to have some continuity all the way across the board, because I think it helps with the communication. But, quite frankly, that's something that we really stress to try to get our guys comfortable not being in that scenario, because there are going to be changes week in, week out during the course of the season, whether it's, particular game plans or injuries or whatever the case may be. So, just getting used to having different guys out there and communicating, and kind of that next man up feel and being comfortable in those scenarios are critical for us. So there'll be a point as we grind through camp and we kind of hit our markers that, we'll probably settle in some guys that we think are, kind of that first group, whatever that may be, from that aspect of it, and really try to do our best we can to gel that group together. But, right now it's just about competition. It's about really just about going out and seeing what skill set everybody has and how we can utilize that as we get into the season.
Chris Burke?
Hey, Matt, had a full question for you. Just wanted to follow up on the Jishan injury real quick. Like, do you guys, you said it's serious, so obviously without putting a timeline on it, if you need to go get someone now, do you have like a group of guys you've had on standby, or do you have to go through that process you talked about before where it's, going to be 3-4 days before someone can join in?
Yeah, it's a really good question as far as the process. I think that's the biggest thing for us. So we've really tried to do a good job of having workouts and making sure that we have our short lists and ready lists of all positions in case something happens in that aspect of it. There is the testing part of it that is, that is a little bit that we have to work around. So even in a case where you may have done a couple position groups or worked out guys or kind of have your next in line sort of, list ready to go, they still have to kind of get into the testing, and we have to go through that process too. So it could take a couple of days.
And then my full question, I think this is a topic you probably would spend like 2 or 3 hours at a coaching clinic on. So hopefully you can answer in 2 minutes, but had a couple of plays yesterday. Marv had a deep ball, like a one-handed grab over Trufant. Kenny had one back of the end zone over Justin Coleman. You've got these big physical receivers that don't need a lot of space. So when you're talking to the DBs about those plays, especially your young guys, what are the teaching points if you have those plays where it's like, there's nothing else you can do there? You were there, the guy just made a play. What's the teaching point in those moments?
Yeah, certainly it's good to have those guys on our team. That's a positive, and I would say that there are some plays in the NFL. These are great football players that sometimes you're just like, that was a really good throw and that was a really good catch. There's no doubt that happens. Now, obviously, from a coach's perspective, we're going to look at the totality of the play and see, hey, could we have done something maybe at the line of scrimmage? Could we have done something at the transition? The one play with Marv actually is something that we've been working on for a while, and we actually got it. To Marvin's credit, he hit it perfect. It was a great throw. Obviously, he made a tremendous catch in certain situations where, we're fully competitive and we got to fight that thing all the way to the ground and try to get it out. That's some of the things that we'd have to do there. One-handed catches are hard to defend when guys make great catches. So that's part of it too. But maybe there's other things like in that particular play that we could have done before the actual catch point that would have made that play a little bit different or a little bit better as a scheme for the defense. Certainly the Kenny play was a great catch. That was another high point play. It was a great throw by Stafford playing off of the leverage. And certainly there was some technique there by the DB in which way that we turned and kind of took on the receiver, maybe at the point of the catch that we could have done a little bit different that we're coaching through. And then certainly being able to go up and through and try to get the ball out is important for us and fight that thing all the way to the ground, which we don't want to do right now because, certainly then you're increasing the possibilities for injuries. But, as we get closer to the games and game scenarios, we got to do whatever we can to get that ball out.
So 3 more with Carlos.
Sorry, I had it on mute. Hey, so you said that there's no starter position that's defined right now. It's all competition. I assume that means DeAndre Swift has a chance to become a starter if he wins the competition. And also just, I know you don't like to talk too much about specific players, but what would you like to see from DeAndre Swift in camp as he progresses, or any rookie running back,
Yeah, and I think the running back one is always the hardest. We kind of had this conversation a couple years ago with Carry On too, and just the adjustment to the game and the length of the NFL season. For me, for Swift, obviously, I think he's got a great skill set of what we saw in college, and we're exploring those different things that he can do, certainly at our level, and just being out there to do it consistently is a big thing for us right now. I think some of the different reads in the run game right now, we're trying to get improved for him and his eye control and some of those scenarios. But we do know that he's a smart guy and he can handle a lot. So not only in the run game, but the pass protection and being able to get the blitz pickups and some of the technique there, which some of the linebackers at this level are a little bit bigger than maybe what they were in college, and some of those guys coming through there. So the technique is really important for us to be able to, make sure that we have that pocket protected. And then certainly we know that, there's different things that he can do in the passing game that, we want to try to build on from that standpoint. So not that it's, small steps, but we try to make sure we build it in a proper manner. And, so far he's done an outstanding job of handling all of that. And then certainly as we get towards more and more live contact in the running back position and being able to have really good contact balance, things like that we saw in college, and being able to break some of those tackles, the more of those scenarios we can get into and see and have that confidence in, certainly that'll help him along the way.
Last 2, Rothstein, then Dave.
Hey, Matt. I'm curious, when you look at Jamal Agnew, how do you, I guess, judge and view him maybe versus some of the other receivers because of the position switch he's making, and that he's probably having maybe a sharper learning curve than even a rookie in some ways because of that?
Yeah, and obviously without the spring, right? That was kind of the other thing from that standpoint, to be able to get those reps. I'll say this: he's handled it really well. I think he's done an outstanding job, and honestly, it was something that we kind of threw him over there at the end of the year last year, a little bit in the wide receiver area, and said, "Hey, what does this look like?" I think, we try to cross train guys that we think can handle it, and he's someone that's kind of had some of that cross training before, and just looking at ways to try to get him the ball. We think that he's pretty dynamic when the ball is in his hands. So we were doing some of that last year, but really, I think he's done a really good job of running some of his routes and learning the intricacies of getting off the line of scrimmage. I think that obviously at this level, press coverage and getting up and man to man and things like that with the DBs, that's a hard skill to learn if you're not used to it. I think his quickness has really kind of helped him there. He's been able to kind of get off the line of scrimmage. And then I think once he's in open space, you can really see, that quickness, that speed, and his feel, which is really good. He's still learning some of the details of the routes. We have a lot of plays that have adjustments based on coverage. And the one thing that he does know is he does know coverage. So he's able to kind of see the coverage. It's just kind of getting down the adjustments on top of that. But, really working extremely hard. He's been on it, all the way through the spring of just trying to get ready to go and take advantage of all those opportunities that he can.
So and this, you kind of hinted at this a little bit, but does his play as a corner for years actually maybe help him a little bit when it comes to maybe being in a team setting, if he's like a slot receiver where he can maybe dissect something that another receiver might not see?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt, from that aspect of it. I can't say it gives him an advantage over anybody else, but I certainly know that when we talk coverages and he looks at the defense, I know he knows what the defense is supposed to be and where they're supposed to be, so he can take advantage of that. That happens a lot with, there's a lot of transition, even if you're looking at college players that played wide receiver that moved to corner and then, transition that way also. I've had experience in the past where I've played wide receivers at DB positions. And it's funny when they come out and they're like, I knew what the route was because I've run that, 5 times on 3rd and 5. I was like, yeah, okay, there you go. That's football. So I think from that aspect of it, it's pretty good. And it's the flip side. He just, he sees the coverage, he sees the help. I think that's one of the hardest things, when you're a receiver, and you release off the line of scrimmage. If it's a defense that disguises really well, you're trying to figure out, okay, where's the help? Am I going to run into something? You don't want to do that. Either you're going to get lit up or it's, you're going to be covered. So from that aspect of it, he does see it.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Last one, Dave.
Two real quick ones, Matt. Number one, Kerryon Johnson didn't do much at practice today. Was that just a maintenance issue with him, or what was going on there?
Yeah, no, scheduled, trying to do everything we can to just, I thought he practiced really hard yesterday. I thought he had some really nice runs, and he's been doing some great work. And so certainly with the player day off tomorrow, just trying to maximize as much time as possible with the rest so that, we can hit it, when we get back.
And then number two, your backup center spot, I guess. I mean, you guys have used a lot of players there through these first 2 days that we've seen. What it's probably self-explanatory, but maybe you can explain why that's so important, A, and then just B, what you've seen from some of those guys so far.
Yeah. The backup center position is one that I think is completely underrated. It's kind of like your backup long snapper. It's not important until it's important. And I think from that aspect, and during the game, I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying? Because when we get into those game scenarios where you're bringing so many offensive linemen to the game and being able to have swing tackles, guys that can play left and right. And same thing on the interior, are they guards only? Are they centers only? Or can they play center and guard? Just the overall value of that player goes up for you on game day. And that's really important and critical. So when we have the time, which is, now, even though we're pushed, you do try to make as many different scenarios where you can see if guys can handle it. And certainly from the center position with as much as put on that position from Mike points and different call outs that the quarterback and the center do for protections in the run game and things like that. You certainly want to get guys in those scenarios as much as possible. And then just, on top of being able to snap the ball and move. So trying to see that as much as we can. I think those guys have done a really good job. I think they've all really mixed in there without missing a beat. I'd say the most impressive part of all of it has been the communication. I don't think we've had any communication problems. Maybe some of the fundamental snaps and some of the movement skills there still need to be improved. And I would say it's a little bit more difficult up under center. So we're trying to get some of those as much as we can, but there's been a couple in gun too. And it's just kind of the familiarity with all of it.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back Thursday.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay.
Thanks,
Yep.
Coach.
Good to see everybody. All right. Stay safe.